Great. So, a very, very warm good afternoon to everyone. And today is another special episode, empowering edition as usual of the Vibe Live Hexalon. Welcome, everyone. As you can see, we have the woman who's been studying your DNA, my DNA, everybody's DNA. Yes, our topic for today, Beyond DNA, where science meets hope. This is Dr. Aparna Dhar. Welcome, Dr. Aparna Dhar, to the Vibe Live Hexagon.
So much for having me. Thank you.
Super. So, with that, let me just set up the context for everybody. As we were talking, the Vibe, which stands for Women Inspire, Build, and Enhance, is a platform dedicated to fostering women's excellence. It brings together women doctors from diverse specialities to share knowledge, leadership experiences, and personal journeys that inspire both growth as well as collaboration. There are four fundamental pillars that form the Vibe, which are physical well being, mental health, financial wisdom, and professional excellence. Through its various initiatives, the Vibe strives to build a strong community of women professionals who uplift each other and redefine the landscape of the healthcare leadership. I'm Dr. Ritu Johari, consultant diabetologist and metabolic expert practicing in western suburbs of Mumbai with a unique diverse background, decade and a half spent in pharma industry, and last half a decade practicing diabetes, thyroid, and obesity. Besides clinical practice, I also contribute to medical research and writing as co-founder of RFIT, a medical marketing agency. But what brings me most pleasure, as you all know, in sharing is the introduction of this unique initiative, the Vibe, as a founder with wonderful dynamic woman side with me. I'm blessed to be complemented by my husband, who's an orthopedic surgeon, and our family feels complete with a teen son and a toddler daughter. With that, let me introduce you to the dynamic Vibe team. Over to you, Dr. Lotika, for your introduction.
Good afternoon, Dr. Aparna, and welcome to all our viewers today and also my co-founders. I am Dr. Latika Purohit, a diabetologist and a lifestyle medicine physician practicing in Kolaba, Mumbai since the last 3 decades. Besides that, I'm also part of the National Faculty of the Research Society for the Study of Diabetology in India, and I'm visiting faculty at the JJ Group of Hospitals and the Government Grant Medical College. I'm a mother to an artist and an entrepreneur, and a partner to the sugar doctor. So that's what our company is known as. And besides that, I enjoy traveling. I love traveling and trying to eat clean, gourmet, or good food. And what also gives me a lot of happiness is what I look forward to is this Wednesday afternoon where we have a star speaker, a woman physician who's an achiever in her own field. And we have a nice discussion about what are the challenges faced, what are the successes down the line. So it's like a learning, sharing experience. We have a lot of good conversations and insights from that. So now I hand over to Dr. Kavita for her introduction.
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Aparna. Namaskar, everyone. I'm Dr. Kavita Rane. I have been a diabetologist and obesity expert practicing at Chembur, at Apollo Spectra and Rane Hospital. Apart from diabetology, I have a lot of varied activities that I do. I love drawing and painting. I love abstract art. I've had a photography exhibition at Jahangir Art Gallery in 2019 and Simrose Art Gallery in 2020. And I love to travel with my dad, who's also a cardiologist. So I run the hospital as director of operations at Rane Hospital. And I love EDM music. I love to play golf. But more than that, I love this Wednesday Vibe Live that I have with all my girls and the star speaker. So welcome, Dr. Aparna. Over to Dr. Rukia.
Yes. Hello. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation, Dr. Aparna. I'm Dr. Rukia Surya Sheikh. I'm a diabetes, thyroid, and an obesity specialist. I practice in Mulund for last decade and a half now. And what I love most about medicine is it's not just about treating numbers, it's about understanding people and being a part of their journey. Beyond the clinic, I'm a wife to a medical oncologist and a proud mother of two daughters. And I'm someone who believes in practicing what I preach. I love to work out, I love playing carom, traveling, and enjoying this great company and meaningful conversations. Recently, I've discovered the joy of painting. It brings little color and calm to my busy days. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today, and I look forward to learn from you, to share, and to grow with all of you. Over to you, Dr. Pranjali, for your introduction.
Thank you, Rukia, and good afternoon, Dr. Aparna. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Pranjali Shah, Director and Chief Diabetologist at Eye Hill and Art Diabetes Clinic. It's an eye and diabetes specialty center next to Rukia. I believe in community care, and I believe prevention is and awareness plays a very important role, especially in metabolic diseases. So we do a lot of awareness camps. I love treating young diabetics and help them live longer and stronger. But if you don't find me in my clinic, Especially, I look forward for weekends to do farming. I was a state level badminton player, so I like to play with my boys badminton, hiking, and especially we look forward for all the Wednesdays where we learn a lot of things from star speakers like you, ma'am. So thank you so much for accepting the invitation and looking forward for the amazing sessions. Dr. Ritu, over to you.
So, first of all, very, very warm welcome once again, Dr. Aparna. And quick question: how did you feel when you received the invitation to be on the White Line Hexagon?
It was amazing. I feel actually a little embarrassed when I told you that. I was like, oh my God, what's this? Who is this? But no, thank you so much. And just hearing all you guys are phenomenal, like multi-talented. I'd love to obviously offline know more about all the fun stuff that you guys do and how do you balance it with work and and having such amazing a separate personal life running parallelly and doing it so beautifully well. I mean, I'd love to learn from you guys how to balance it out. Very, very inspirational, and it's amazing being around such star-studded women. It's very inspirational. So thank you so much for having me. I'm a little overwhelmed and a little embarrassed, but thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for those few words that touched you. And trust me, this is what brings us together. Like everybody was saying that the Wednesdays are time when we get to network with women across, and we truly believe in sisterhood, and we truly believe in actually collaborating and moving ahead in life. So it's super, and you'll definitely look ahead that any one of us is in Delhi, we will touch base with you. And if you're in Mumbai, we would definitely love to welcome you out here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We also have some physical programs, so we'll be planning that in January. We'll also reach out to you if it is possible for you to travel. We would love to invite you and have you over here.
Absolutely. I
In
love
person.
Bombay. I do enjoy Bombay.
Wonderful. So now, with your permission, I would just like to brief the audience also about you and your credentials. When it comes to Dr. Aparna Dhar, and this is, trust me, truly inspirational. 20 plus years of global leadership in medical genetics, training and leadership across esteemed organizations such as the Mayo Clinic, the Harvard, University of Glasgow, and the Broad Institute. She has been able to impact almost 16,000 plus families through genetic counseling and precision oncology, which is not a simple number, my dear friends. An internationally acclaimed medical geneticist and genetic counselor. With pioneering work to her credits in genomics, precision oncology, and hereditary cancer genetics. Trust me, it took me some time to practice and say this to get. She is also, of course, currently serving as Senior Director of Hereditary Precision Oncology and Genetic Counseling at Max Healthcare. And amidst, she's a highly awarded persona amidst her most of the awards. She's recently been nominated as the top geneticist of the year 2025, and also in Jan 26 been awarded as one of the top 10 prominent medical genetic doctors as well. So without further ado, lovely audience, may I request Dr. Lotika Purohit to take the segment one. Welcome, Dr. Dhar. Hope you enjoy this session.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we start with the first segment, the journey, choosing the road less travel. When we think of healthcare, we most often imagine doctors treating patients in clinics, in hospital. But modern medicine is equally equipped with scientists who work behind the scenes, asking difficult questions, driving research, and transforming the discoveries into better patient care. So your journey, Dr. Aparna, has been beautifully represented in this evolving face of medicine. Unlike the conventional path of clinical medicine, you chose research and eventually pursued a PhD. And what sparked this first curiosity towards molecular biology and cancer genetics?
Can I just say I love the name of the segment, The Road Less Traveled. It's one of my favorite books by Scott Peck. So thank you. When I heard that, it was like, wow. So it's quite often I get asked this, right? That yeah, I had somebody who actually accused me of choosing research over medicine, that you chose research over this. But it's interesting. It's because I always wanted to understand why something's happening. So, it was always, when I look at cancer as just as a disease, I was always fascinated that no two patients actually fit in the same thing. They both had lung cancer, but they both were behaving very differently. They had different journeys. Some responded so beautifully to treatment and some did not. And it was, I think, that spark that came in as to why, what is, what was causing it? Why was this so different? You understand the disease, but what was the bottom line, the root cause? And I think I've always been very curious about, I know we say curiosity kills the cat, but I think over here, I've always been very curious because, you would see that some families were carrying this burden of cancer across generations, while others never encountered it. But then suddenly there was cancer within the family. And understanding all of that is what kind of pushed me into going at a molecular, at a cellular level. And I think that's one of the key reasons where it was, okay, if I want an answer, I need to go to the basic. My foundation has to be strong. And I think that's one of the key reasons where I've been very lucky and privileged. And I think God's been very, very kind that I had the opportunity to, kind of go and explore cancer at its fundamental most level. I think what it really, really taught me was to think critically, to challenge your assumptions, to kind of appreciate how complex the human biology is. And I think one of the greatest lessons in research you learn is humility, because you think you know it all. You go in saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this particular experiment. And yeah, it doesn't always go as it's planned. So it actually reminded me that it's far more sophisticated than what our current understanding is. And I think it's somewhere across all of this, while doing all this research, you realize that every mutation belonged to a patient, to a person, forget a patient, a human being, and every genetic alteration somewhere represented a family that was kind of searching for an answer that, what mutation do I have? Is there targeted therapy? And I think somewhere over here is where I found a kind of a turn. So from the scientist part of me, I kind of went into the whole, hey, wait, there is a clinical side that also needs to be answered. And I think it was, again, I go back that I've been very blessed and lucky that I also had the right mentors who said, okay, this is how you can bridge the two worlds and bring them together. So today when I see it, yeah, I had a slightly unconventional way of coming into cancer care, but I see it. I see them as being inseparable. I cannot do what I do if I did not have my scientific, my science background, and I cannot do the clinical bit without, so I somewhere find that they're very interconnected. So unconventional, yes, but I think somehow all roads lead to the same thing, which is ensuring that medicine doesn't lose its humanity to a certain extent.
No, that's very true. It's, I think it's curiosity and then working on the curiosity and then finding a road which is less traveled altogether makes so much difference. So research demands a lot of patience, persistence, and the ability to embrace the uncertainty. What attracted you to this world?
I think it was more about it was the pursuit of actually kind of understanding rather than the promise of having some certainty and having an output. It's not always going to happen in research, but I think somewhere, with research, what one learns is that, and what we see with a lot of professionals, and again, it's what you learn from your mentors, is that every answer leads to 10 new different questions. So you think you're coming in to do something and you always end up doing something different. You get some different answer out of nowhere. And it actually teaches you that progress is rarely linear. And this was a quote that my professor always said, progress is never linear. You have to understand experiments fail, hypotheses change, evolve. It kind of teaches you to adapt. I think that's a very, very important aspect that when we are in medicine in general, we have to learn to adapt to situations. And that's been a key, I think it's that has fundamentally shaped the way I think, is that you learn to adapt, you accept uncertainty. Maybe not so much in life, but at least in your clinical practice, you kind of start accepting that, being a little bit more flexible. And if you think about it, even from a cancer genetics perspective, right, there's so much uncertainty. Imagine a patient to who you've given all this information, they're still sitting with some sort of uncertainty. So it kind of teaches you that it's not to be uncomfortable with uncertainty. You got to learn to respect it, that there's sometimes you know it, sometimes you don't get it, and that's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of progress. That's the way science evolves. That's the way medicine evolves. So I think those are the key things that it's taught me. Patience, definitely, which I think comes and goes in pockets, but definitely adaptability and uncertainty are two key things that I take.
So you've trained with globally renowned institutions, including University of Glasgow and the Mayo Clinic. So beyond scientific knowledge, what other experiences did this teach you about yourself as a scientist and as a healthcare professional?
I think, again, I've been very fortunate, and I always say God's been kind that I had these opportunities. Yes, you learn some of the more, you're alongside some of the brightest minds, and you realize how intellectually daft you are when you sit in that group of Nobel laureates and you just hear them and you just see how, they're so endlessly curious. They won a Nobel laureate, they've been doing it for donkey years, and they're just always curious. There is that hunger of knowing more, and that can be very infectious. We don't realize it. We think that, this is just a drama or whatever, but it's not. There is that hunger in them that, okay, I did this, this is done and dusted. I was flavor of the season for some time. Let's find something new. Let's move on. And I used to find that amazing. I used to see clinicians who never stopped listening, no matter how experienced they were always listening. And what you also saw were your leaders who were very generous in their knowledge distribution. So they genuinely would sit down, teach you, because they believe that when you build an individual, that's how you build a program. So these environments, I think, kind of reinforce that always be curious, always be listening, always be a student. If you're always in that mindset that I'm a student, you're always going to learn. And science and
always
everything.
learning.
Absolutely. And collaboration. I think for me, that has been a very, very important, that's actually been a key thing that I learned over there, that it's never a one-person show. And I remember my Professor Eric Lander, Dr. Eric Lander, he's the main PI of the Human Genome Project. He always said that, your knowledge may travel across borders, but the greatest purpose it is when you realize when it comes home and it actually you take that knowledge and you improve a community and you build a practice, you build a program. So that was one of the key takeaways that I learned from them beyond the science.
That's right. So looking back, you would have found that there would be many such moments where you realize that your work could influence not just the work that you do, but the communities, the individual patients, and even probably future generations also. So what was that defining moment where you felt that, okay, what I'm doing is important and this has the power to change? Though I know you said it should be all collaboration, but there would be, I'm sure, some moment where you felt that, this was the turning point in your career.
So I couldn't pinpoint and say it was this particular moment, I had that, aha, this is it. I think it's been an accumulation of many conversations. And that's, I think, what's kind of transformed my perspective over the years, So, when a patient walks into our clinic and we see people from all different walks of life, from all different ethnic backgrounds, it's the conversation from which you learn. It's those conversations that always kind of extends beyond to the parents, to the siblings, to the children, and sometimes generations that are yet to be born. And I always think back of families, who will sit with us, been facing cancer for many years, or those who carried not only grief, they've also, a lot of uncertainty, often a lot of guilt. And then a genetic diagnosis gets provided to them, and you give them an explanation. So you're not assigning blame, but you're replacing all that fear with knowledge. And suddenly what felt like an unpredictable family situation, a curse, you suddenly see those myths disappearing, and knowledge is empowering them. I have found this to be incredibly powerful moments where sometimes you feel like, okay, I get what I'm doing has some, I'm adding, I may not be curing a patient like a medical oncologist or a surgical radiation oncologist, but I think that's been one of the biggest privileges, that when you see those families get empowered and, even with treatment decisions, when we sit with those reports and say, hey, this is what your tumor is saying, these are potential treatment options, and then to see those outcomes come about. So I think every patient in their own way, their families, their journey that they go through. And it's a privilege for us to be a part of that. They're trusting you and having you be part of that journey. And I think somewhere in that, that's where it's come about, that every time you learn somewhere new, that those families are very inspirational. So I think that's been the transformation, just everyone teaching you something new.
Yes, that's very interesting because when your mind is open, you're curious, you're learning, everybody teaches you at the right time, the right teacher appears, and that further processes it takes you one step further in your career. So that's so nice. Now I hand over to Dr. Rukaiya for the next segment.
Actually, I was just going to add a comment that a patient of mine once said it, that, patients teach you about science, but every
Yes.
scientific discovery is actually something that helps the next patient. There was,
True.
I found that was such a powerful
Yeah.
statement that individual made.
Yes. I remember we used to have a professor who would always say that the answer comes from spending time with the patient. Go back. If you have any thoughts, always go back. They will have the answers. So history taking is such an important thing.
Absolutely.
Talking with the
Absolutely.
patient. Yeah. So I hand over to Rukaiya for the next segment.
It's me. Hi. So the
Oh,
second
sorry.
segment
Okay,
is
sorry.
it's mine.
Yeah.
So,
No.
Dr. Aparna, it's been amazing listening to your stories and the courage that you had with your patients, and being out there and explaining to them how genes are the ones that push the thing forward, and that it's not your fault. And I'm sure there was so much counseling that goes on, like how you've interacted with the family. So this next segment is the future of medicine, from discovery to delivery. Scientific discoveries have transformed oncology over the last 2 decades. Yet perhaps the greater challenge lies in translating those discoveries into meaningful patient care. And that is precisely where your work has made such a significant impact. So, precision oncology is transforming cancer care globally. So, how would you explain this concept to someone without a medical background?
So, yeah, so the tagline for precision oncology, which we all love saying, is the right treatment for the right patient at the right time. And what that essentially means is we've today understood is that two individuals with lung cancer do not have the exact same biology. They are defined lung cancer, right? So we understand cancer being lung, but there is a genetic driver. One could be driven by a gene called EGFR. One could be driven by a gene called KRAS or ALK, and we have targeted therapies for it. So what we're doing, instead of giving you standard chemotherapy, we're trying to understand the biology of the tumor and tailor making a treatment plan for the patient. And that's the power of precision oncology. Sometimes it could be as simple as saying, look, you need standard of care chemotherapy. We can't, avoid that. Sometimes it's saying, hey, you just need surgery, you just need radiation, or you need a combination of targeted immunotherapy. So we're tailor making something for a patient based on the biology of their tumor. So that's the most easiest way, the simplest way to understand precision oncology.
Wow, that's so amazing. So, you often speak about understanding the biology of the tumor rather than simply naming the disease.
Right.
Has this changed the way we think about cancer itself?
I think this actually represents one of the greatest paradigm shifts that have, I think, ever happened in modern oncology. If you saw this year, it was all over the news about pancreatic cancer. They found a targeted therapy, and I can tell you people were emotional. And
That's amazing.
these were the doctors who were emotional because, you're seeing individuals, you've lost so many patients to the disease. And today you see that, there's a potential hope for our patients. So and that's all come from understanding the biology. We recognize that the names that describe a tumor's identity is, it's not just based on the address. You have to know the exact, what is that particular tumor built up of? What is causing that tumor? Who is driving it? And the more we understand the molecular biology, how different genes who belong to different cycles, different pathways, how they cross-talk among themselves. It's quite a nefarious group, I will say that. And oncology has a way of humbling you because you think you understand, and then the disease goes pulls a fast one and
Correct.
you're like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
And
True.
this is where the future of oncology is. The more we start to understand, the more we learn,
Yeah.
the more curious as to why this is happening, um, you will see that change come in, and you can see the change in oncology. You know, back in the day, a lung cancer patient barely survived 6 months. I have patients 10
Yeah.
years, targeted therapies, and doing relatively well.
Wow. Amazing.
Even pancreatic, we're seeing good outcome. I mean, not the best, but you know, from something which was a couple of months,
Yeah.
you've taken it to a couple of years.
True.
That's a transformation. You know, that's
Yeah.
brilliant that we're starting to see. There's so many exciting technologies like ctDNA testing, which is using a blood to kind of identify blood to identify the tumors, picking up a disease even before it presents. So there's such a revolution happening in this field that it's very exciting, you know, because you're saying that cancer is not static. We are accepting that cancer is a biological story. It's like a film that just goes on, and we kind of need to figure out the ending, but you know
Yeah.
it's changing, it's dynamic. So it's a beautiful evolution that's happened.
Wow, that's amazing how you're describing it almost as an art, isn't it?
It
Like a
is.
yin, yeah, like it's a yin and a yang, where the white comes the dark and the bright and the darkness. I
Exactly.
understand, and you literally have to understand even the darkness to begin to cure it. So I really love the analogy that you're giving us.
Absolutely.
So
I
I
like
love it.
this yin yang. I love this. I like your interpretation. Lovely.
Artists think that way. Artists.
Exactly. I'm just going to say that.
So, moving on to the next question, scientists often work behind the scenes while clinicians remain at the forefront of patient care. How do you see the relationship between research and clinical practice, and why is this collaboration so critical?
So, I think in today's day and age, back in the day, yes, they were very separate worlds. But I can
Yeah.
see that today research, clinical practice are coming together. I think they best exist as a continuous conversation, is what I'd like to call it. Yeah, so research definitely generates discoveries, but those discoveries will become meaningful once you implement them with patients. And that's essentially the clinical aspect of it, where you need to be working in conjunction with your clinician. And then if I look at what I've been doing, right? So somewhere it's that interface where the research allowed me to think like a scientist, to think, ask why, go on asking why, to maybe analyze evidence critically, to kind of always be curious. But it's
Yeah.
also clinical training that comes in that reminds you that every data set is actually a family waiting for some clarity, for some reassurance. And the beauty is today in oncology, we've moved from seeing your research, your clinical, it's a very collaborative approach. So I work with a multidisciplinary tumor board where you're going to have PhDs who are coming in from a bioinformatics background, molecular biology, genetic counselors coming in. You have pathologists, you have your clinicians over there. So the scientist is going to help you understand the disease, but it's the clinician who's actually going to help you understand the person, right? So you are seeing that there is a beautiful amalgamation where everybody is coming together. And I remember in our laboratory, there used to be very nice, I'm all about quotes today for some reason, but there was this very nice quote over
We
there
love
that
it.
said,
We love it.
it was outside my PI's office because he was an MD PhD. So he was that interface between, research and clinical. And he said the distance between the laboratory discovery and the patient's bedside was not measured by kilometers, but was actually measured by collaboration. Those days I didn't understand it, but today when I look at it, I'm like, wow, okay, that was profound, like very futuristic. So I think this is where we are with oncology. And you can see this in India too. So, I mean, if someone like me practices in a hospital, it's because, you are being embraced and, kind of brought into the forefront and seen as an integral part of patient care.
Very true. Very true. I totally believe 100% of what you said, because it's the continuum of treatment, the continuum, just like how we, just like how we put it all together. the flow continues, and that's what benefits the patient for sure. I mean, I totally agree. So, I'll moving on to the last question. As technology advances rapidly through genomics, molecular diagnostics, and artificial intelligence, what qualities must doctors continue to protect that technology can never replace?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. So I
Yeah.
think one of the key things is no doubt artificial intelligence, right? So while I'll be honest, it does help us in our clinics. It does transform, it kind of helps us interpret those very complex data that we get from sequencing from the next generation sequencing machine. It helps us identify patterns which we could potentially miss. I mean, it does help us accelerate diagnosis, kind of give us information, and that's great. It's great, but we should never, never be under this false pretense that it's going to replace a human being. Because I do think that technology should augment rather human intelligence and not replace your human judgment. Because there are certain qualities that we have that no algorithm can truly appreciate, be it compassion, empathy, ethical judgment, which is such a key component of practice. And sometimes just the ability to sit down, talk to a patient, and who's receiving life-changing news. It doesn't always happen. So yeah, I think that's an area that, yes, we definitely, definitely welcome it. But going back to what you said a little bit earlier, I think medicine is like, it's got a little bit of science and art. So technology will continue to transform the science, but I think the responsibility to preserve the art comes to us, which is the empathy, compassion, and the true medical side of it.
Awesome. So we're all artists. You accept for sure. Medicine is art for sure.
It definitely is an art.
Amazing. It's been amazing in this segment. So thank you very much, Dr. Aparna. Moving on to the next segment with Dr. Rokia.
Thank you.
Yes, it's been so wonderful listening to you. Right from how curiosity has kept you moving from, why these things happen. And my segment is about, going beyond the report. So, what is the human side of the science? Like because behind every genetic report is a person, and behind every mutation is a family, and behind every scientific recommendation is a very, very deep personal decision. So this is where the science meets humanity. And it's very shattering when a patient finds a report of cancer in their hand and to himself that, okay, what's going to happen to me? But it's also shattering to the family members who have this question, can I also get one? So these are some of the conversations you usually involve when you're discussing inherited cancer risk with the entire families. So how do you communicate these difficult informations while you're preserving hope?
Wow, that's a tough one, actually. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions people have is that, when someone comes to genetic counseling, they're just coming to know what to do with that report. But actually, they're coming to you for understanding. So when a patient walks into the clinic, they're carrying a medical concern. They're inadvertently carrying fear. I can't tell you how many times a patient doesn't want to meet us because he or she is scared what the genetics clinic is going to say. So they're scared to come in. They are filled with uncertainty. There's a lot of guilt and also an overwhelming sense of responsibility, right? For the people they love. So there's a mother who's worried about her daughter, who's going to marry my daughter if this turns out being genetic. There's going to be a grandparent who's going to wonder, Lord, has my genes, the reason that the next couple of generations are going to suffer. So my responsibility at that point is not just simply to explain the genetics. I think it's to help people navigate those emotions with clarity and compassion. And this is an area of what I do that I think I feel the most passionate about, that, it's really important to have those difficult conversations, but with honesty. And a lot of times, a patient doesn't want to just come and hear reassuring words. A patient trusts us because they want to hear reassuring answers, but they also want to know the truth. So you have to be truthful, you have to be empathetic, and most importantly, you have to kind of be part of that journey. You have to tell them, look, I'm not going to meet you today and say, oh, you have a BRCA1 mutation. This is going to happen. That is going to happen. Good luck. So long, farewell. That's not how it works. When they know you're part of that journey, when they know that you're going to be there holding their hand through that journey, it's extremely important. And the most important takeaway I try and drill in their heads is genetic testing is not your destiny. Those results are not your destiny. It is information. Information is power. It empowers you to act on it, so it allows you to be proactive versus active. And being proactive is definitely proactive versus reactive, rather, because you are going to be doing these screening protocols. You can make informed decisions for treatment. You can go for risk reducing surgeries. There is the option of, IVF, where we can ensure the next generation does not have it, PGTM. So there's a lot of hope that comes about that when you actually sit and show that, look, you did the genetic test. That's why pre-test counseling is important, because we explain this, that when you sign up for a genetic test and you're going to understand all of this. It's really important to understand what these implications mean, what the results could mean to you and your family, while showing hope about how great about how important genetic testing is. You have to be extremely truthful. And what I have learned is that when you're truthful to a patient and you're being very, you're having a transparent conversation where you're highlighting the good, the bad, and the ugly, I have seen patients tend to take that much better. Break it down into smaller steps, bring out the human part of it, because they're human, you're human. And when they kind of understand that the doctor is empathetic and kind of understands what's happening, they tend to be a little bit more receptive. And usually they tend to walk out being a little more calmer and comfortable, because I think it's always about harping that information is, information knowledge is your toolkit as a patient that makes you empowered. So I think those are a couple of things that I try and do, because I am most of the time, unfortunately, breaking news that they don't want to hear. So those are some of the things that I try and instill and say that it's not the end of the world. And this is the plan, this is what we have, and this is how we're going to help you.
That is so beautiful, Dr. Aparna, when you were so passionate about it and also very human about it. Coming from a scientist, a researcher background who started with, looking at the numbers and, the data, and then going back to, making sure that the patient is comfortable in understanding it and, being proactive at things. So that's really beautiful. So since you have counseled thousands of families and individuals, what has this journey, taught you about resilience and a remarkable strength of patience?
And I think all of us would agree with this, that I think our patients teach us something new every day. I mean, when you look at them, and when we speak about resilience, we see it in our clinics every day, right? So you see individuals who are walking into your clinic every day who are resilient. They're coming in for their regular follow-ups, they're getting their chemotherapy, they're bringing in their families because they want to ensure the next generation is not going to be at risk. And when you fundamentally think about all of this resilience, that is all the strength that they have. And that's just such a beautiful moment that sometimes I think we always think of strength as strong and but sometimes it's not so dramatic if you think about it. It's just that courage that a patient shows, that they come in for their next appointment, they're doing those screening tests, which sometimes can be uncomfortable, to the conversations, those honest conversations they need to have with their children when they bring them in. So to face that uncertainty while trying to live fully, I think that's just amazing. That's, I think, something that patients teach us every day, that, they give resilience a very different meaning. And it shows you that resilience has so many different facets to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Strong, like in our mind, if I tell somebody to draw strong, it's like this big person with big arms and, a lot of muscles, but not necessarily that is strong. Showing up every day, being there for your follow-ups is actually what you're absolutely right in saying, that is the real strength and being resilient. So, like you talked about uncertainty in life. So, how has, has it changed the way you personally deal with uncertainty in life?
I want to sound very profound and say, oh, I deal very well with uncertainty, but there are ups and downs. Yeah, I think genetics as a field has so much uncertainty, and it kind of does teach you not to fear it. It's just simply part of being human. But there's some days I think we all forget that we're not human, and we think we're, superhumans and everything has to be perfect. But I think we're always looking for absolute answers. So that's an area that I like to believe that kind of, you know, helps you deal with uncertainty. But I can tell you it's an evolving thing. I can't be all, yes, yes, of course I can deal with it. I can't. There are sometimes I have to go back and say that, um, sometimes I have to remind myself to be more patient. I have to, kind of accept that there is sometimes you have to have the serenity to accept things you can't. And I think that's an area that I'm still learning. I'm work in progress. I always say that I have it outside my door also, work in progress. But it's an area that's evolving. But yes,
Hmm.
little bit of uncertainty you can accept, but somewhere along the way,
Yeah,
not.
even if you know genetically what that patient is, and you have seen him through the DNA, through the genes, but there is still uncertainty about how you're going to respond to those DNAs
Is
and genes that you have.
absolutely. Sometimes I rehearse an answer before going in. I kid you not, I see that report and I'm like, okay, let me rehearse what I have to say. Because sometimes, we get attached to our patients. And sometimes what happens is that you get so upset seeing that report and that your
Yeah.
emotions come in when you're talking to your patient. And you can't do that because that individual and their family is depending on you at that point to be the strong one in that whole conversation. So yeah, it's work in progress. But you remind yourself you're a human and you too are
So, ma'am,
evolving.
when the family leaves your consultation room, what do you the science you explain, the assurance that you offered?
Sorry, the line broke. I missed the question. I'm so sorry.
So
Can we?
I'm saying, when you counsel the family and when they leave your room, what do you hope for? Is it that the science that you explained it to them or the reassurance that you offered to them?
In an ideal world, you would hope both, but
Mhm.
I really hope what I think is more important is in the long run is how you made them feel. They may honestly at some point not remember a doctor for the science that was shared, but a lot of times it's how you as an individual made them or their family feel at a point when they were their weakest, the most vulnerable. I think that's the key. As like for me, when a patient walks out, I want them to feel that my doctor listened to them, my doctor heard my concerns, my doctor answered my questions. If the doctor gave gyan, gave a lecture, if they remember that, great. If not, but it's I think that humanness, that human connect that comes at the end of the day. Oncology is it's just a roller coaster of emotions that an individual goes through. And in all of that, you hope you are that calm in the storm for the patient that when they step out, they're like, okay, this person made me feel human. This person did not see me as subject A or a case of carcinoma, a case of pancreatic cancer or
Yeah.
something. This individual addressed me by my name. This individual respected me as a person, as a patient, my family. I think that's the key thing I'd like them to take.
Yeah.
Genetics will always be there. We'll always be there to give
Yeah.
medical information, but that's important. The humanness, that cannot be
Yes.
lost in the
Yes.
journey that these patients go through.
Yeah. Like, that's why, medicine is art. You may know everything, but how you communicate that to your patient is the key. It's in the
Absolutely.
end, they only remember the communication. They do not remember the report, the numbers. They do not remember. It's how you made them feel. And I think you're
True.
absolutely. I had a great time having this conversation with you. It actually gave me goosebumps thinking about, how your day would be like talking to all. Yeah, because it's a sad story. Every day, every patient is a sad story. So, it's not easy. You have filling your own life pouring into others. And I job at it. It is you, Dr. Aparna, and I will always remember these conversations. Over to you, Dr. Ritu, for your
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rukia. So the Goa wind is really, helping us to to feel that we are vibing here out even in Mumbai and Delhi despite of the heat. Yeah, and
Exactly.
and Dr. Aparna, I must say that all the time that I was viewing your videos and also while I've been hearing this conversation, I'm totally mesmerized by the way you are passionate about every single line that you say. And whenever I talk, I'm always worried that I express too much or I emote too much. But I'm so glad I have a twin sister who does that as well. And I'm like, hey,
You know, I'm
so
really
that is so because it is truly enigmatic, and I must say that most of the times patients are very happy with it. Patients, especially when you're counseling, it makes a lot of difference when you can be able to get down to the level that they are sitting at. So I think it's totally commendable the way you do it, and especially like you clearly said that your segment itself is such that counseling does make the entire change. Of course, it's not about changing the diagnosis, but being able to get them to swallow down and live with whatever fact you are stating. So wonderful. So now moving on to my segment, which is talking about building tomorrow, leadership, innovation, and legacy. As we all know, leadership in science is not just about discovery. It is basically about building systems of how you are going to manage. It's about mentoring the future professionals, like how the students or the mentees are going to take this further, whatever we have built today. And finally, of course, fostering collaboration, like we are doing here on the Vibe as well, and ensuring that whatever innovation is happening is actually reaching the patient who's actually the end consumer or the one for whom the entire hula hoop has been designed. So with that, my first question over to you. You've been absolutely instrumental in building hereditary cancer and precision oncology programs across the institutions that you have worked. So, how does meaningful leadership actually come to you, or what does it mean to you when you talk about healthcare in cancer care?
So I think with healthcare in particular, it's about building an ecosystem. So it's not a department. It's somewhere we have to understand that healthcare has become very complex. It's not as straightforward as it used to be once upon a time. There is, I sound like a broken down tape recorder, but it is collaboration and a multidisciplinary approach, and not just in oncology. So it's beyond oncology, right? So when I see a
Right.
patient of cardiology, I see a patient of GI, or just across the board, we see fetal medicine. It is a collaboration, and we have to somewhere build an ecosystem where everybody's available to work together,
Right.
and there has to be synergy within this ecosystem. An ecosystem only works and grows if there's synergy, and I think that will overall improve patient care, and it's also about creating opportunities, right? So one thing
That's
that I
true.
said a little bit earlier is that one of my key learnings from all the institutes were looking at leaders who were driven in creating the next generation of leaders, which was
Right.
imparting knowledge. They understood that if knowledge is protected, nothing's going to grow. So they believed in
Right.
sharing. And I think we have to somewhere understand that in leadership, it's about creating those opportunities for others. We have to be confident enough to say that, hey, okay, I'm not so good at this, but I know somebody who's really good at this. Let's get this person on board. And, kind of
Right.
understanding that there are people who are going to be better than you. And when we're looking at a bigger picture, you are looking at an individual, a patient. And for that, you have to ensure that the umbrella, that whole ecosystem you're creating, has all the right individuals who can give patient care. And that starts from the top, from the management,
Absolutely.
starts with us as healthcare providers who allow the management to think like that, and we collaborate with them to build these ecosystems. So it's that what is required, I think, for me in healthcare. That's something I think we're not there yet, but it's actually
Right.
accepting that this would be the way forward. And that it gives you your returns also. It's not that it doesn't, but it kind of serves both purposes.
Absolutely. And I think, working in silos doesn't work nowadays, actually, in any stream. I mean, within cardio diabetes space as well, whenever we are talking amidst our own cross specialities, whether it is the ophthalmologist, when we're talking retinopathy or we're talking neuropathy, we're talking, myocardial health. So most of the times when we talk to the other consultants, the other cross specialities, it actually makes it much better to look at the patient wholly. And then, of course, the patient is also more confident in the kind of care that he or she is receiving. So I guess the
Right.
collective expertise is what you're trying to bring in, and that makes a lot of difference and definitely a way to build further, because ultimately it's all about, if we want to give something to the patient which is best, then why not have all the best people in the team?
Exactly.
Wonderful. Wonderfully put up. The next thing that comes in onto my chart is that, being a woman, of course, we always say that, gender agnostic and women are everywhere. But we do understand that, we still live in a patriarchal society. There are still male dominance in almost every era or area that we look at. So when it comes to leadership in your particular area of medicine or research, what are the challenges that you have faced through in your career so far?
I think early on, and like you said, we tend to have more male bosses, and I'm not saying they weren't good. I had lovely bosses, so I really can't complain. But you kind of think that leadership means being, the adjectives were, oh, you can have to be loud, you have to be authoritative, you have to be,
Right.
an expertise, you have to look a certain way. And I think over time, something that I learned with a lot of trial error failures is that leadership is not that. You don't fit into someone's definition of leadership, right? You
Wonderful.
have to be authentic. When you're authentic, so for me, I can't be authoritative and loud and I can't do that. But it works
Right.
brilliantly well for somebody else, So I'm not saying
Right.
it's a bad trait, but it works for that
Right.
individual. And I learned it with a lot of trial and errors, from kind of ruffling feathers to then realizing, okay, maybe this doesn't work. And I learned that sometimes you can be empathetic without compromising excellence. You can remain collaborative without diminishing your own authority. And you
Right.
can be compassionate while maintaining your scientific rigor. And somewhere with a lot of trial and error, you figure out what works best for you. If someone likes it, great. If someone thinks you're weak, that's their problem. But that's just who I am. So if I have to lead, if
Perfect.
I have to do something, that's me. Take it or leave it. I can't be your definition of a leader. My definition is somebody who's works with the team and leads by example. So if you want me to be nice, if I want you to be nice to me, I better learn to be nice to you first. So that's my basic understanding of leadership. Not the man. I know not the most, not what you expect from them, but this is what I think leadership is.
That's a brilliant one, Dr. Aparna. And I think I'm sure that this will come up as one of our taglines when we do our social media post for thanking. Because trust me, I completely agree with you that, we have these niche kind of profiles that we've built in, that, this is how, this exposition should be, or this persona should reflect, or, a leader should reflect. But those stereotypes have to go away, because those stereotypes largely have always been men, and that's why those particular adjectives are also like that, when you say authoritative or dominant, or maybe, muscular, tall, dark, handsome, whatsoever. But I guess it matters when you're able to make an impact. Leadership, the way you said that if you're compassionate and that your work is showing through, your patients talking about you, and then you're leading people, your mentees are with you. I think the kind of community that you're leading and the way people are remembering you, the legacy that you're creating, that is leadership. So I guess it's great that you also say the same thing, that leadership is not just respect. I mean, in respect of the things that are decided, but then it's what you do and you create. Wonderful, truly brilliant. If you could redesign cancer care in India over the next decade, like you said, that this is work in progress, and I love that about you when you said that that's what you're getting outside as well. If you could redesign cancer care in India over the next decade, what are the three basic changes that you think you would work on? Anything that comes to
Integrate.
you.
Okay, so I would do. I've been asked this before, so this is I have the top of my head. Integrate
Wonderful.
genomics into routine cancer care. Cost should not be an issue. Affordability should not be an issue because of which a patient can lose out on targeted therapies. So integrate. Second, we need to have greater emphasis on prevention and hereditary cancer programs. That 5% that is hereditary, genetically predisposed, I like to believe that's a percent where we can actually prevent the disease or catch it before the disease actually presents. And third is invest in people. while we invest in technology, technology is not going to deliver your precision medicine. You need lots more people with trainings of cancer genetics, molecular oncology. All these individuals have to be brought in and incorporated into the ecosystem. You have to invest in people. Good people with good technology will give you the precision medicine and the goal that we're looking for. So these are my three key things that I think we should all be investing in.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think, audience, if they are hearing it, I think this is absolutely something which is very essential because it's the people who make the difference. And of course, along with advances, but neither one can work alone. They have to be working in tandem. Brilliantly put that across one. Finally, my last question. If there is one lesson that your journey has taught you, then what is it that you would want other doctors, young doctors, or researchers, or scientists to carry forward?
So I think I'd say exactly what my mentors taught me, was told to me, never lose your curiosity.
Wonderful.
But never let curiosity exist without compassion. So I think that would be my key takeaway. If you're curious, you're compassion, you're on the right, I'd like to believe you're on the right track. That would be my key takeaway. And that's kind of the mantra that I try and follow in my day-to-day practice. That's something I do try and follow.
I totally love that. And I still remember when, as a small child, my mother used to say, stay hungry, stay foolish, so that you always feel that you want to know more, you want to learn more. And I used to be like, Mama, can I eat more? And it took me some time to understand that when it's stay hungry, it's not the literal hungry, it's about the knowledge hungry. But yes, just on a lighter note. But yes, totally second you on that. Thank you so much for inspiring us. With that, move on to the next segment. Brilliant and wonderful rapid fire and all those wonderful episodes coming up your way. Dr. Pranjali, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Ritu. So it was lovely listening to you, and I just love your smile, the way you're talking. You are really beautiful. So, so my next segment is audience ask, which is getting day by day popular. So the first question is, with genetic testing becoming increasingly accessible, who should genuinely consider genetic counseling, and when is the right time to have that conversation?
So ideally, if you have a family history of cancer, if you have someone who's been diagnosed with cancer at a young age, or if you have a suspicion that you heard a story that somebody had some symptom that alluded to cancer, those are individuals that should be referred to a genetics clinic. You should come and meet a cancer genetic counselor. There are quite a few of us who specialize and subspecialize in cancer, because cancer genetics is slightly different from other genetics. So those are individuals who actually qualify for genetic testing. Now, talking to a genetic counselor, who will look at your family history. We talk about inheritance. I think one inheritance we should all invest in is the inheritance of giving our family history to our loved ones. I think it is just, we talk about property, we talk about gold, we talk about that, but actually that family history of understanding your medical history it should be a very integral part of the inheritance that we all get, and understanding that can actually save lives. So visit a doctor, visit a geneticist, let them understand your family history, and then based on that, they will advise you if you need genetic testing. It's for everybody. Sometimes you can throw out answers that could be variant of uncertain significance, and that just leads to a lot of unnecessary stress, anxiety. So if you have a family history or you feel that you are at risk for whatever reason, visit a cancer genetic counselor and we'll take it up from there and help you.
Superb. So today only I had a case where, both the parents were having pancreatic CA, and father passed away because of pancreatic CA. Now the mother has an issue, like whether my daughter, she's 45, 50, she will get pancreatic CA. So how should we handle? And if we do the genetic analysis and we found out some mutation, so is there any prevention which is possible?
Oh, absolutely. So if we understand what is the causative gene for that, so genes again are of different types. We have high risk, moderate risk, low risk genes. Based on that, we have very well, established guidelines that tell us which factors the patient's family history, personal history, and the genetic history, and we design a surveillance plan. So let's assume this patient, with the family history of pancreatic cancer, has a BRCA2 gene. So I'm just being hypothetical here.
Yeah.
BRCA2 can increase your risk of ovarian cancers, breast cancers in both men and women, prostate cancers in men. So we design, and obviously pancreatic, and then we design a plan based on that and say, these are your risks. This is what you can do. In some cases, we offer risk-reducing surgeries to some individuals. Nothing comes down to zero, the risk, but you take a substantial 60, 70% risk and you bring it down to 2 to 5%. So that's the key idea, that based on the genetic results, we can kind of give some direction. We can kind of predict what you could potentially be at risk of. Or we also tell you, hey, just because you've tested positive does not mean that you'll be there. It just puts you at a higher risk. So these are key things that we would be telling a patient in our clinic if they came with a history or mutation.
Great. And if every family could take one proactive step today towards reducing their future risk of cancer, as we were discussing, what would be your strongest recommendation be? Like we can't ask them to go ahead with the genetic testing, right?
No.
So then, so I would like to have your input on it.
I think I'll go back to, as much as we love inheriting our photograph traditions, family recipes, please, please, please start discussing medical history. It's not a taboo. I understand that log kya kahenge, what will people say? Forget people. Your family is really important. Prioritize them over what log kya kahenge.
Yes.
People are going to fearmonger about, oh, it's cancer, it does this, it does that. There's a lot of myth, a lot of incorrect information that goes about. Have open discussions. And I think it starts at home. They say charity begins at home. That discussion starts at home. We can do multiple community drives and talk about it, but if at home we're not discussing this, all this is
unprevented.
So,
yes.
Exactly. Start from there. If you have a pain, you feel something feels abnormal, please visit your doctor. Let the doctor tell you you're psychosomatic or you're hypochondriac. That's okay. Let us tell you that. But if you feel that you can sense that you feel a lump, you feel a change in your bowel movements, you see you're becoming anemic, what have you, please visit a doctor. Prevention is better than cure. It's so much more easy for us to pick things before it actually happens and kind of prevent the disease. So conversations start from home. Like, that's what I tell all my patients, that please have open, transparent conversations at home. Trust your doctor.
Yes, excellent, Dr. Aparna. Now we are moving ahead with the next segment 6. Now it's time to change the gear. It is like quick answers, rapid fire round, where I'll be asking you questions and you can give quick, whatever feeling comes in your mind, just share your answer with me.
You're asking a loquacious person to give one-word answer.
No, you're just amazing. I would love to have your detailed answer also. You're just amazing. I'm loving listening to you. So let's start with the first question. One word that defines your journey.
Curiosity.
Oh, nice. And the next question, curiosity or courage?
Curiosity, because if you're curious, you will have the courage to ask questions. So.
Perfect. Research or teaching?
Teaching, because research will create knowledge, but teaching amplifies it.
Data or intuition?
Data or intuition? Ooh.
Yes.
Data informed by intuition. Your data guides your decisions, but your clinical experience also has to come in.
Sometimes you feel this patient might be having this, I don't know, that clicks sometimes,
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mentor or mentee?
Oh, always a mentee. Always a mentee. You stop learning in oncology and medicine. The day you stop learning, you finish. You're stagnant. Don't. Always the mentee.
Oh, amazing. One scientific breakthrough you hope to witness in your lifetime?
I want to sound very cliche and say that cancer tomorrow is just a sun sign, but we know that won't happen. But I think cancer becoming a preventable disease rather than a treatable one. That would be lovely to see prevention. Yeah.
Super. one quality every healthcare professional should never lose?
Compassion. They'll forget, they can forget your words, but they will never forget how you make them feel. I genuinely, genuinely believe that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree to it. Um, if not science, what profession would have fascinated you?
Maybe a baker. Maybe
Oh, nice.
I like food, so maybe baking. Because logically, if you look at it, you're actually taking ingredients and you're building something. So it's like a multidisciplinary thing. You take everything together and you build something good, something tasty. So maybe a baker. Yeah, maybe a
Wow.
baker. That'll be fun.
One habit that keeps you grounded.
I've got such a long way to go that before I can say that, oh, I've achieved so much and I need to keep my head should not be in the clouds. But having said that, I do have a lot of people around me, like my parents, I have very, very dear friends who are my biggest cheerleaders, but also know when to smack me and bring me down when they think I'm getting a little cocky. So yeah, I think I'm just very blessed that I have the right people around me who know when to go like yay and when to go nay. So I think they keep me pretty grounded. They keep me sane for sure.
Super. And complete this sentence: the future of medicine belongs to those who
Remain endlessly curious and they embrace innovation, but they never lose the sight of humanity and compassion. I think that's the key thing.
super amazing. That was so sharp, sincere, and so authentic, like what Vibe stands for. Thank you so much, Dr. Aparna. Over to you, Dr. Rukia, for the closing.
Thank you so much. It's been so inspirational and phenomenal just hearing all of you guys. And it's such an
Oh,
honor
we
being here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, actually. You're amazing.
we just loved having this conversation with you. And, it just reminded us that the future of medicine will just not be shaped by technology alone. It will also be shaped by curious minds and compassionate hearts and the courage to ask questions that lead to better answers. So, Dr. Aparna, thank you so much for showing us that behind every scientific discovery lies the possibility of changing lives, not only for a patient, but also for generations to come. So, thank you absolutely for inspiring us to look beyond the DNA and to see how extraordinary human stories that science has to power to transform. You know, we always, all of us, are going to say that what is something that is my takeaway from today's session, and my takeaway from today's session has been that always be curious, the mentee. I love that thing about you, and that is something that I am going to be working on. So, yes, always keep an open mind and always be curious. And authority can be empathetic also, it doesn't have to be loud and shout out. Yeah. Over to you, Lotika.
So, yeah, it's really been so inspiring to hear you. What struck me was the humility and adaptability, because I think that is something that, and of course, what you said, curiosity. You always have to be curious, and you have to be, ready to face the uncertainty and be adaptive enough to, like regrow and regroup and again look, because especially in the science, when your experiments don't come out the way they are, you step back and then again you adapt and again you move forward, and that is so important, because we get a lot of people get disheartened when things don't go the way that it should, and they kind of get stuck because of that. But adaptability really stood out for me. Thank you so much.
Oh,
So for
I think,
me,
yeah.
I will share. So for me, it was like how you make your patients feel when they are leaving your cabin. That is very important, not only in the practice, but also when you're talking or interacting with anyone. That is the very important thing, which I also agree to you, Dr. Aparna. And another thing I would see, detailed history taking. Even we should ask our patients to, you need to talk to your parents or grandparents and you detailed history taking is really important for future. Like we can prevent many diseases if we know the proper history. So thank you so much, and over to you, Dr. Ritu, for your takeaways.
Kavita's takeaway?
Victor.
Yes,
So,
Ritu
yeah.
can take her.
To that. So I love the fact that you said right vendors are needed. So where we are sharing our experiences and from generation to generation, just like how the history is important, the mentors are important, and that's where we learn or get to understand our own thing. And progress is never linear. I love the fact that you mentioned that, and so thank you so much. Over to Dr. Ritu.
Usually I speak a lot. That's why I said let me go last because then I'll end up taking everybody's points. So two things that two things that I would like to mention. One, of course, being that your smile, your charisma, your passion are all very effective. So may they be as they are. And that's what I would like to pick up and say to myself that, hey, look, you are doing the right thing. So go ahead, do the same. Um, and I also love the logo which is there. I don't know who's created that, the DNA kind of checking the patient, which I was seeing even yesterday in few of the videos.
I drew it and then I had somebody digitize it for me.
It's amazing. It's totally amazing. And somehow I felt, but I didn't want to ask you because I thought that would be too direct. But yeah, it's totally amazing. And it shows how clear, how you have clarity in your thought as well as creativity within it. So kudos to you for that. And finally, yes, I would also like to bring in another point, which is, we all need somebody to ground us, somebody to have our sanity in place. This is our safe space. We are so lucky to have each other, and you are now a part of our community. So, really privileged to have you also, Dr. Pranadhar, within our community with us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Absolute honor. Thank you.
It has
So thank
been
you so
lovely.
much.
Yeah, it's really been so nice.
Hope you had fun too.
So before we end this, one last thing. We would like you to join your hand and make a V. And at the
Lovely.
count of 3, we say be the vibe. Okay?
Done.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3. Be the vibe.
Be the vibe.
Yeah. Cool. Nice.
Lovely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely
everybody.
talking
Thank
to
you
you.
so much.
Yes.
Likewise.
you.
Lovely.
Bye.
Take care.